Hey guys, let's get more news from Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. First call, former Steelers rival says Russell Wilson will come to Pittsburgh, Big Ben's Mike Tomlin-Bill Cowher comparison. A former rival of the Pittsburgh Steelers sure sounds like he is pushing Russell Wilson toward Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger draws an interesting comparison between Mike Tomlin and Bill Cowher. We check in on some legal issues surrounding a budding Baltimore Ravens star. Plus, we bid a fond farewell to an all-time classic actor from sports movie lore. All that in Wednesday's first call. A former Pro Bowl wide receiver says a former Pro Bowl quarterback is going to end up in Pittsburgh. Chad Ochocinco Johnson told Shannon Sharpe on their Nightcap podcast that Russell Wilson is going to the Steelers. A little birdie told me, and I said this many shows ago, Russell Wilson's coming on over to the Steelers, Johnson said. Up until now, I've known Johnson to have as many sources as he does Super Bowl rings, 0, but if he scores on this one, that would be a grand slam. I'm just curious if Johnson's birdie has ever taken up a perch in the Steelers' South Side facility or the office of Wilson's agent. Because if not, then this birdie is useless to me. Almost as useless as I think Wilson would be as quarterback of the Steelers. Too old. Too much baggage. Too little return on investment. Give me Kirk Cousins, Justin Fields, or a top 100 draft choice before Russell Wilson. Ben Roethlisberger joined the Alpha 5 Method podcast with fellow former Steeler Bruce Gradkowski recently. Gradkowski, a Seton LaSalle product, asked Roethlisberger about his early relationship with his first NFL coach, Bill Cowher. He treated me like a crappy rookie, Roethlisberger said. He's like, Ben, I could have treated you like the greatest thing since sliced bread and put you up there because you were winning games, or I could have treated you like I did, and I chose that route because I felt like that was what was best for you. That tracks with Cowher and everything we've heard about how he handled Roethlisberger. Although I'd argue treated me like a crappy rookie is a bit hyperbolic. The Steelers had plenty of crappy rookies under Cowher. And he treated them very differently than he treated Roethlisberger. But what Roethlisberger said next was of particular interest to me. It wasn't like you were with Coach Tomlin, Roethlisberger said. You were like, kind of buddies, could go talk to him or whatever. The old open door policy? I never went in the open door. I didn't want to go in and talk to Coach Cowher. That was the last thing I wanted to do. Roethlisberger, confirming how much of a laid-back player's Coach Tomlin is as opposed to Cowher isn't exactly a surprise. But using the word buddies to describe player relationships with Tomlin will only fan the flames from Steelers fans and media that Tomlin isn't hard enough on the players who need it. Steelers, projected to 100% bring back veteran cut candidate. The first few weeks of the offseason is a popular time for pundits to suggest roster cut candidates around the NFL. According to multiple writers, cornerback Patrick Peterson should be one of those cut candidates for the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, The Athletic's Mark Kaboly threw cold water on the notion that the Steelers could cut Peterson in his mailbag on February 21st. I'd put it at a conservative 100% chance he returns, Kaboly wrote to a question on how likely it was Peterson comes back. Position flexibility, experience, and leadership can cost money. They might have plans to move him to safety, which would be interesting. In 2024, Peterson will be entering the second year of the 2-year contract he signed with the Steelers last offseason. He will have a $9.775 million cap hit for the upcoming season. During the 2023 campaign, he recorded 42 combined tackles, with 11 pass defenses and 2 interceptions. Peterson played 97% of Pittsburgh's defensive snaps in 2023 at various positions in the secondary. Kaboly suggested that the Steelers have already decided Peterson's future in Pittsburgh. But on the surface, the team faces a difficult decision with the veteran cornerback. While Peterson was extremely reliable, finishing first for the Steelers' defense in snaps, he isn't the same all-pro player he was a decade ago with the Arizona Cardinals. According to Pro Football Focus, he was below average. Among cornerbacks who played at least 80% of his team's defensive snaps in 2023, Peterson posted the third-worst PFF player grade. Based on the PFF grades, Peterson experienced a poor first half of the season. His play improved in November but then tailed off again in the final 3 weeks of the campaign. In Week 15, Peterson began playing significantly more at safety, which he had never done previously. That could at least partially explain the drop-off in his PFF grades. At 34 years old, he's likely to continue receiving snaps at safety and slot cornerback. So, he's going to need to play better at those positions to justify a cap hit north of $9 million. The Steelers, though, may be willing to bet on Peterson improving after another offseason of training at multiple positions. They could also keep Peterson for simple depth purposes. Fellow Steelers cornerbacks Levi Wallace, James Pierre, Shandon Sullivan and Elijah Riley are all free agents. The 13-year veteran appears to be hearing the noise that pundits are speculating about his future in Pittsburgh. Peterson spoke about the matter on the February 15 episode of his All Things Covered podcast. The question is if the Steelers want me to finish with them. I signed a 2-year deal for a reason, said Peterson.
Could the Steelers pursue QB Baker Mayfield? News broke today that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are expected to use the team's franchise tag option on safety Antoine Winfield Jr., which would allow the team's starting quarterback Baker Mayfield to hit the open market. While he could certainly return to the Buccaneers, that would give his representation freedom to negotiate with other teams. Could one of those teams be the Pittsburgh Steelers, perhaps? The Pittsburgh Steelers fans are quite familiar with quarterback Baker Mayfield, the once-thought franchise savior of the Cleveland Browns. While things didn't work out for Mayfield in Cleveland, or with the Carolina Panthers, and after a brief stint with the Los Angeles Rams, he found success with the Buccaneers. Player overview: Baker Mayfield became just another failed quarterback for the Browns once they traded for former Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson, whom they are still waiting to see a return on. As far as Mayfield goes, he had his best season as a starting quarterback for Tampa Bay. But would it be worth it to pursue him in free agency versus sticking with Mason Rudolph? That's a question only the Steelers can and will be able to answer. Mayfield shows a willingness to attack all areas of the field, short passes, medium areas of the field, as well as throwing deep down the field. Defenses will tighten coverages when the quarterback and coordinator don't show a sustained willingness to be on the attack versus being passive-aggressive, seeking to keep things short. Mayfield routinely threw deep down the field for the Buccaneers in 2023. It certainly helped to have Mike Evans as the team's top target, one of the better starting receivers in the league. Baker Mayfield can move around in the pocket and pick up yards by scrambling. We all saw Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes break the figurative backs of the San Francisco 49ers by escaping the pocket and picking up chunks of yards. Mayfield can do just enough to pick up a new set of downs. Whether you love or hate Baker Mayfield, you have to respect the edge he plays the game with. He won't back down from anyone regardless of how big they are or how hard they hit him. With such an up-and-down career as a starting quarterback, would it be a wise decision for the Steelers to invest tens of millions of dollars into him? What if 2024 was merely an aberration, and he goes back to what he's been before? Baker Mayfield routinely doesn't properly set his feet when throwing the football. New Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback coach Tom Arth is a bit of a stickler for the little things. That might not make for the best relationship. New Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith is a bit of a stickler too. Just watch any one of his media sessions from his time as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. With that kind of valuation, would the Steelers be getting an on-field upgrade over their perceived quarterback room of current listed starter Kenny Pickett, free agent Mason Rudolph, and players to be named later? Well, that's sort of the classic yes and no question scenario. Yes, the Steelers would be getting a perceived upgrade as far as experience as a starting quarterback. However, with Mayfield having a series of ups and downs throughout his career, it's wise to wonder if the Steelers would be investing in an up, but heading towards a down. While we all would like to see the team do something else at quarterback, the more prudent course may be to have a check-in with Mayfield to see where his market is currently at, then fork over such a contract and regret it 1 to 2 seasons later. Mason Rudolph is not likely the Steelers' next franchise quarterback, nor should he be paid like one. There's something to be said for the devil you know, being better than the devil you don't. And you fan? What do you think of the Baker Mayfield situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.